Welcome to the Ergo2go podcast, brought to you by the Back School and Ability on Demand. I'm your host, Matt Jeffs. We bring you interesting people from the world of ergonomics, on-site injury prevention, risk management, health, safety, well-being, and a whole lot more. Don't forget to subscribe below and click on the little bell in the upper right-hand corner to get the latest on the overlapping fields of ergonomics, health and safety, risk management, human resources, and healthcare right here on the Ergo2go podcast. Today's guest is an august faculty member of the Back School. She's a certified hand therapist and a member of the American Society for Hand Therapists. She's also a member of the Arthritis Foundation's Media Bureau. It's my pleasure to welcome to the Ergo2go podcast, Doctor of Occupational Therapy, Jamie McGaha. Jamie, welcome back.
Thank you, Matt. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you, and we got a little bit of a taste, a little bit of an introduction in our first segment, and so much more I wanted to plumb because again, we have some mutual interest in what I like to call lifestyle medicine or integrative medicine, based on the biopsychosocial model. And I understand you've got some pearls as well as far as things that you do yourself and share with patients and others, workers as well. Let's start with nutrition. What are some good nutritional advice that you tend to share with workers in the field or patients in the clinic?
Yeah, for either, I tell everyone, eat healthy and eat colorful. I mean, I tell them I like a lot of things that are beige, but they're not the best for us, right?
Right.
So avoid beige on your plate or keep it as the smallest portion when you can. So eating colorful is a big thing. And I'm a big believer in just eating fresh, eating fruits, eating vegetables, and make that a big part of your diet. I'm a heavy plant-based eater. I was a vegetarian for 13 years. I'm not anymore, but I tend to gravitate mostly towards fish if I do consume meat. So those are my biggest things to tell people. If I have patients or have workers that have, certain specific issues going on, then I might recommend some specific things towards them. For example, if it's a client with carpal tunnel syndrome or worker with symptoms of that, I might recommend that they make sure to eat a lot of their dark leafy greens to get enough B vitamins, because that's really important for neural health. I might recommend, to people who feel like they constantly have that flu and that cold, that they're making sure they get enough magnesium and enough zinc in their diet. So just making sure they get all those vitamins and those minerals, and drink water. I try to have as many of my patients drink water over soda, if anything. That's a big deal. I was a former Diet Coke addict. I'm not anymore. I'm a heavy water drinker.
Yeah, wow, that's really amazing, especially the point about the B vitamins. It's you bringing back memories. Well, I used to see a lot of fresh post-ops, and one of the things that I would push was, look, it's not going to cost you anything. Go out and buy a jar or a bottle, whatever you want to call it, of vitamin C, because I would explain to them the role of vitamin C in wound healing. And tell them the story of the discovery of scurvy, where limeys got their name, the British Navy, and all of that, and just say, hey, it doesn't do any harm. Just like the B vitamins, they're water soluble. Whatever your body doesn't need, it's not going to collect. But go ahead.
Vitamin C, I think, is really important too after any kind of fracture. I always tell my postoperative fracture patients, there is some evidence, it's not greatly, in terms of abundance out there, that it might help prevent people who are more at risk for complex regional pain syndrome or what was known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy, RSD, whatever name you use for it. So vitamin C, I had some doctors who would full on prescribe a higher dose of it for those patients after a fracture fixation with hardware. So that can be something I think is very important. And if I have a patient that is diabetic in healing, which I already know is going to be slower, or I have a worker that I know has diabetes, or maybe they've mentioned it to me just off the cuff, then I really hit home on making sure they get those vitamins through their diet, or supplementally if they can, so that their healing can be the best possible.
You also mentioned something that struck a chord as well, and that is the plant-based diet. It's such a great opportunity to recalibrate. As someone who many years back now played with veganism for about 2 or 3 years, it was great, but I got tired of saying no all the time. No, I don't eat this. No, I don't eat that. It almost felt like an approach to life. So as I went back to letting some of those things back into my diet, I still recommended it as a recalibration because, as you mentioned before, you can make the beige things a smaller portion. You can make the meat a smaller portion of your meal. You're still getting it, but it's not taking up half the plate anymore. I think that's really an interesting observation.
Yeah, I'm a carb lover. I grew up with a mother who was raised by a grandfather from Switzerland who was a pastry chef. So like butter and bread are really heavily ingrained into my life.
Yep.
I don't think my mom would let someone gluten-free even in the house, which is terrible.
Right.
But I also, I really was raised on knowing balance just from a personal perspective. And then as a practitioner and learning about nutrition and physiology and how healing and tissue occurs, I really believe that balancing and not only just looking at your portions, but kind of the bigger thing these days is not portion counting or calorie counting, but macronutrient counting, looking to see what percentage of your plate or your daily diet is protein, what is fat, what is carbohydrates. I think we need them all. We just need to make sure for each individual person, for your body, for your lifestyle, that they're balanced out so you can have the healthiest intake.
I love that you address that because again, I'm the same way. Whenever I hear about cutting out a macronutrient, that's a red flag to me. It's sort of like, no, we need them and we need all three. It might just be a balancing, like you say, and it's so individual. It can be different from everybody. So what's Dr. McGaha's favorite pearls as far as her own exercise advice, maybe for you or for others? What do you see in lifestyle that way?
Everyone's got to move, right? Our bodies were made to move, in my opinion. So no one, everyone doesn't have to go out and be a triathlete or run a marathon. I'm not on my bucket list to do actually either, but I think everyone needs to move. And I really recommend to, whether it's my workers or my clients, 30 minutes a day, move, dedicated movement. And maybe you don't like to go to the gym. No big deal. Get out there and garden. Go, for a walk. Go for a hike. Throw the Frisbee with your dog, pass the football with your son or your daughter. Whatever gets you moving, whatever gets your cardiovascular system working, your pulmonary system working. Because if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And similarly, I used to, in groups, especially with the employees, I'd say, listen, when you go to wash the car or rake the leaves or sweep the driveway, set a timer. This is what I used to tell them, set a timer. And whatever it took you to try to beat that time next time, you've turned your chore into an aerobic activity,
Yeah. No, I love that. So yeah, I'm a big believer in, just making sure people get some physical activity. And especially for any of my cumulative trauma disorder patients, it's actually one of the ways I approach pain with them as well is they're given a bit of a cardio or aerobic program at home. And it might be very simple as just walking on a treadmill or walking outside, depending how cold it is, because I live in Colorado now.
Yep.
So not everyone wants to be outside in the winter. I get it. But if you've got anything, repetitive strain wise, I want to get blood flow. You need blood flow to bring oxygen, to bring healing nutrients to those areas that are damaged tissue. And one of the best ways to do it is by moving. And it's also the way I like to make people warm up in the clinic. If I've got a bike or I've got an upper extremity bike, get on the bike and dynamically warm up. For a lot of my clients, that's a much better way to get some blood circulating versus just putting a hot pack on them or, doing something like modality wise like that. Then I'm getting more aerobic capacity. I'm getting more METs out of them and they're getting their heart working too.
Precisely. That physiological warm up is much better than, like you say, a superficial peripheral one.
Acid,
yeah, just doesn't get it done. Okay, this is where I really will at least get into it in this segment and plumb the depths in the next, but I wanted to get to it, and that is You do have background. We talked a lot about, mine with Tai Chi, yours with yoga. Stress management. What are some of your favorite stress management advice? Again, to either workers in the ergonomic realm or to patients in the clinical.
Mm-hmm. So probably the first thing is breathing. Breathing is a huge thing. And even in my own personal stress management, sometimes that's a really hard thing. You're like, I am breathing. I'm speaking right now. There's air going in and out. But that's a very different thing than actually working to control your breath, to breathe with your diaphragm, to do diaphragmatic breathing. And I had a licensed clinical social worker one time that I was working with tell me, do you know why people are so relaxed when they smoke? I said, yeah, because the nicotine. She said, no, it's because they're actually diaphragmatic breathing.
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah, she said, I don't want you to start smoking by any means, and I want no one that I work with or anyone I know to start that. But if you think about the inhale and the exhale and the rhythm of that, it's really actually a calming way to regulate breathing. Sometimes if I'm having a really anxious moment, I definitely either hyperventilate or I just get a little bit too excited. So I have an app on my phone called Breathe to Relax. And I use that a lot of times first thing in the morning, especially if I know I have a crazy clinic day coming up, and a lot of times before bed, to try and slow myself down, and that forces me to slow down. So breathing is a big stress management tool. Exercise is huge too. That's just I'm a big believer in exercise to help control stress, to get some energy out, to get some anger out, any of those things that you might need. Yeah. So that's another big one that I encourage people to do. And the other thing is just to kind of be mindful, whether you do that just in your own head, whether you journal, whether you voice record, to learn to let go. Control is such a huge issue in our entire culture these days. And we feel we have little control over things, which stresses people out more. As a worker, do you have autonomy to make your decisions at your job? If not, does that lead to other maybe physical or psychosomatic effects or the development of an injury? So learning to say, I can only control myself and my reaction and what I feel, and I can't control everything around me, is a huge part of, I think, learning to understand yourself and your stress and how you might approach managing it for you.
Pearls of wisdom. I love it. That's and not only pearls of wisdom, but practical apps. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here, because I knew you've got some practical applications. Listen, it's all good to read about it and but to be able to put it to use, sounds like it's working for you.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I'll tell you, I'm only 30 years old. I take my blood pressure every morning. And I can tell, I mean, it's amazing. Maybe it's biofeedback for me. If I see it's a little high first thing when I get up because I didn't sleep well, because I was anxious or upset about something that happened the day before, and I sit there and I do, maybe even 3 minutes of a little bit of closed-eye meditation with diaphragmatic breathing, it will drop. And I mean, it's crazy to see it.
It is crazy. And I used to do that on site. I'd have people come into the clinic and do a guided session with them and show them we would have a blood pressure cuff on them and show them before and the after, and they would drop 20, 30, 40 points. Now it may recalibrate, but it was just an illustration, like you said, of biofeedback. Listen, there is control over this. And now we know neuroplasticity is lifelong. So you can practice this and it becomes cumulative over a lifetime. That's good stuff, Jamie. Let's pause here. This will be segment 2, and then we'll go into segment 3 and bring this all home. But my goodness, we could go on and on for this. I really appreciate your weighing in. Would you stick around for the last segment?
Oh, of course, Matt. I'm having a great time.
Likewise here. It's good to talk with a kindred spirit, so sit tight. You've been listening to and watching the Ergo2go podcast. I'm your host, Matt Jeffs, brought to you by the Back School and Ability on Demand. We bring you interesting people like Dr. Jamie McGaha from the world of ergonomics, on-site injury prevention, health, safety, well-being, and a whole lot more. Don't forget to subscribe below, to click on the little bell in the upper right-hand corner to get the latest info from the overlapping fields of ergonomics, health and safety, risk management, human resources, and healthcare, right here on the Ergo2go podcast. So until next time, let's be safe, let's be smart, let's be helpful, and let's get to work. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.